here we are. We are at part 4. This is our final piece in our Converse series, Black Women in the Workplace. I am so happy to be ending this with a bang. We have Teal Cole, who is a licensed professional counselor. I hope I said that LPC acronym correctly. And we want to end it on us, right? So for those of you all that are watching, let me just give you a quick recap of the journey that we've been through today. We started with HERstory, right? Which is about the history of Black women in labor. Then we went to Her Health and Wellness, where we had an opportunity to discuss how that history impacts how we show up in the workplace, mentally, spiritually, and physically. Then we went to accountability to her, right? Which is where we talked about how agencies and management can be accountable to creating space and holding us and really supporting us, right, through everything that we've now discussed in terms of history and what is happening today. And now we're going to bring it back to us because that's how we started. We want to come full circle with her accountability, which is a conversation that Teal and I are going to have about what are things that we can do as Black women to support ourselves. What are some tips for us to make sure that we are showing up as our most authentic selves, right? And also, we want to talk about her accountability in terms of how can we as Black women show up for each other in the workplace, because we did have that conversation just around, how racism and how capitalism and things of that nature sometimes causes a lack of unity and competition amongst Black women that doesn't really serve us in the best way. Yeah. So welcome, Teal Cole. I'm so excited to have you here with both Black Women LLC. And I'm going to actually let you introduce yourself first.
Okay, well, thank you for having me, Rashanna. My name is Teal Cole. I am a licensed professional counselor. I have been with the District of Columbia Department of Human Services for, I think it's 5 years this year. Yes. And then recently, as of last year, I started doing individual therapy part-time, which I absolutely love as well. I am a native Washingtonian. I've been here all my life, went to school, came back. I have no plans on leaving, but you never know. So yeah, I enjoy what I do and life is good.
Yes. Well, we're so happy to have you on here to bring your clinical expertise to this conversation, as well as your life experience, because I don't want to assume, but I will assume that you are a Black woman. Okay. And so we'll have a lot to talk about. The first thing is actually just a clarifying question, because I know that in the therapeutic space, in the counseling space, there are different tracks to being able to provide those services. So do you mind just telling people about your track specifically as a licensed professional counselor?
Sure. So yes, I am at LPC. So we do a lot of the same things as at LICSW, which is the social worker track. The only thing is just like what you go to school for. I did not go to school for social work. I went to school and had my master's in professional counseling. As far as what we're able to do, are we able to supervise, see clients and stuff? We can do all the same things. We just went to school for different things. They went to social work. I did professional counseling.
Yes. Awesome. So that is exciting. So now, as the licensed professional counselor, is that the highest level in your track?
It is. So they now have, I think it wasn't always like this, but now they have LGPC, which is a licensed graduate professional counselor. So as soon as you get out of school, you have to take a test. They've kind of stringed it along with the social workers, where you get a LGSW, which means you just graduated. You get your hours, and then you test again to do your LICSW. So now professional counselor, it was just one. So you just do one test and you get your LPC. Now it is that you get your LGPC first, and then you move on to get your LPC.
Awesome. So is there anything that you'll have to do now to like make up that time, or that you're good?
I'm good. So luckily, by the time I took my test and everything, I was still I already had my hours and everything like that. So I was able just to get my LPC. I didn't have to get the LGPC first, thank God.
Awesome, awesome. So I know that those of y'all that are watching, if you have had the privilege to watch parts 1 through 3, you know that I'm Rashanna Roach and I'm the CEO and founder of Vocal Action LLC. We're a strategy consulting firm, and our focus, our passion is in programs, projects, and initiatives, businesses that are invested in positively impacting Black people and communities globally. And so here, I want to also say that I had the privilege of meeting Teal in my 9 to 5 capacity, where, as she already mentioned, we worked on the same team at a local DC government agency. And in that role, as I just left that position, it will be a year in August officially. I was blessed, and that is the right word. And I know that this is a professional environment, but for those of you all who follow me on social media and my business is also my spirituality and my belief is in God. And so I was blessed to meet Teal because, and the reason I wanted Teal to come on for her accountability is because her interactions with me is a representation of her accountability, because Teal was not just holding me accountable to creating boundaries and maintaining my peace, and those types of things that we're going to get into in this conversation, but she also, in her reaching out, was that we talk about her accountability in the sense of being accountable and supporting other Black women in the office. And she was that for me. So I wanted to start off by saying thank you, Teal, for for being that for me. And I wanted to know, what is it maybe about your upbringing or training to start this conversation that, I don't know if you would consider it like one of your beliefs. Maybe it's something that you just fell into, but makes you that person who does that.
Well, thank you. First of all, but I think it's part spirituality, and I think it's part my upbringing, which has a lot to do with my spirituality. I come from a close knit family, so it's just like I was taught, what do you need? You help. Just my mother is a nurturer. My father has always not been more so of the nurturer, but he's always been very business savvy. So it's great to be able to merge the two. I can learn how to be professional, but I can still be caring and supportive of those around me. I have a sister who I'm extremely close to my mom. I talk to both of them every day. Have a large extended family as well, where it's just like we're cousins, but it's just like we're sisters, we're family, we're very close. So it doesn't really feel like effort for me to say, hey, how you doing? You know what I mean? You need this, I can help. Oh, you need this, no problem. Oh, I thought of you. Let me give you this or whatever it is. I know it doesn't require much for
Yeah.
me. So it actually just comes from just part of innate, just who I am, to be able to do it and feel like, okay. And I also feel like I'm doing like a part of a ministry, a part of a service as well when I do it.
Yeah. And when you think about it, I like what you said. It doesn't require much just to say, hey, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like that is somewhat lost in the workplace,
Mm-hmm.
because and maybe I would like to talk about this even more, but there was a time where people were in a workplace for decades,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I would even venture to say that we have colleagues that work in the local government, just as probably I'm assuming any government agency, where that is their story, right? Where
Yeah.
like they've gotten married while they work there, and they've had children, and your colleagues know your kids, and like they know your husband and they know your parents,
Mm-hmm.
because you literally spend a third of your day in this space with other
Yeah.
people. And so there was that time where a workplace I would say resembled more of a family, than just these are my colleagues and I only do professional things with them. And
Right.
while that still happens in a different way and probably in like smaller groups, because it's I don't think it's like intrinsically embedded into the workplace culture. I think that we've lost that sense of just like saying hi.
Yeah.
And maybe, I mean, not say that. It's not even just saying hi. It's how are you today? Right? Because I mean, I think most people have the general basic manners of saying hi, speaking as they're going, but really stopping to you to say, hey, how are you?
Yeah.
I think that we've lost that.
I'd agree. I think that, it used to be that, but I think just in just the culture sometimes that work can present is just about the numbers. It's about the outcomes. It's do. That sometimes you can also tend to lose sense of yourself. It's just like I'm so focused on I gotta do this paper, I gotta do this, I gotta do this note, I gotta see this family, whatever it is that you do, you kind of lose sight that there are other people around you kind of going through the same things that you are. And so it just becomes that everybody is out for themselves, gotta do, not really take into account like we're all kind of in this together. So it's just like I am able to have empathy for those around me, because it's just like, yeah, well, I having a bad morning, you're probably having a bad morning too. Let me just say good morning. How you doing? You know what I mean? And you never know what that could do for a person. Just, if I bring you some breakfast and say, hey, I thought about you, I watched the show, how that can just kind of zap somebody out of whatever it is that they may be thinking or going through. And it just kind of builds that family presence that used to be there. Like the nature of work isn't really going to change. Let's just be honest. It's always going to be outcomes. This need this, but you have to ensure that you are doing what you need for yourself so that you be able to produce the work. When you get to a point that you are just going, I would hope that there is some part or some accountability in that to say, hey, am I doing a good job? Is it just about this? How is my home life? How am I? Even before you can take care of anybody else, you have to be able to take care of yourself. How am I doing this job? Am I doing it as effectively as I was doing it before? Where can I strengthen? Where do I need to pull back? Am I doing too much? I think at some point that there needs to be some reflection so that you can know, you just gain a sense of who you are. And then you are able to see differently once you understand who you are in this professional setting.
Yeah, I love that. And in part 2, in her health and wellness, we talked a little bit about like really thinking about who you are in that moment.
Yeah.
And specifically, I remember the example that I gave. And clearly, you all can see I have the same outfit on, so it wasn't that long ago. For those of you all that are watching, if you watched all together, but the example that I gave was, in college when you can run, and you can go and run off for 3 hours of sleep and still be fine, and you can't do that now, right? And so it's really about evaluating who you are in this moment. And I think it starts there, because everything else has to fall in line with that. So in this moment, am I a person that needs 8 hours of sleep? Am I a person that needs to work out? Am I a person that has other people to take care of, whether that is, a parent, or, you're a caregiver, or or you are a parent, or a wife, or whatever, right? What are the things that are most important to me that I need to keep myself functioning? And then using that to then design what it is that you do. And I know that many of us don't have that opportunity, or maybe, and I would be interested to get your thoughts on it. Maybe it's not that we don't have the opportunity, but we don't think in that way. One of the things that I encourage in From Brunch to Launch, and some of my business clients, is to really think about what they want their life to be first in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
And then from there, craft what you want to do around what you want your life to be. So let's just take out the job aspect, right? Take out the data, the money, like all of those things. What do you want your life to look like? And so how does someone understand that many of us have to work? You know, how does someone take a second, or how does someone take the time to assess who they are?
Sure. So whenever I think it's a meme or something I saw that I practice myself, and I say to a lot of my clients in individual practices is, if you don't take time for your wellness, you'll be forced to take time for your illness. And I think that a lot of us need to understand that whether we are moms, wives, workers, whatever it is, you still matter in all of that. Life is always going to be life. It's always going to be something that we are presented with. There are going to be challenges, highs, lows, whatever it is. But where do you fall into that? So it's like you have to be intentional about taking care of yourself. A lot of times, especially with women, we go into situations and it's kind of like the savior mentality. Is where do we help? We fall in, we're doing it. What do you need? And doing that. And then it's like we're tired. And then we become angry. We don't get the thank you. We don't get the appreciation. We don't get the kudos, the shout out, whatever it is that we feel that we should get because we've done all these things. But at the same time, it's just like, are you taking time to appreciate yourself? Are you making space for you mentally, emotionally, even financially? We'll give to the kids, we'll give to the office co-workers before we even give to ourselves. Are you making room for you? And so I think that is all a part of your wellness. And when you think about a 5-year plan, it requires you to sit down and take space for yourself to think about it. It requires you to kind of tap into, where are you? What do I even like doing what I'm doing anymore? You know what I mean? A lot of times we're working a job just to make ends meet, but there's no passion behind it. It's not what we want to do anymore. We're too scared to do something else, because specifically in our community, it's just like you work a job. You got a good job, especially a good government job, you don't leave that job. We aren't people who are going to take the risk to do something else that might actually make us happy. So it's about really taking time for your wellness. Where are you emotionally, mentally, physically? All those things that's going to keep you thriving to be able to work a job. If you don't have it to give, how are you're running on fumes, honestly, and a lot that's not productive for anyone, and it's specifically not productive to the individual. So I say just be intentional about making space for you, whatever that is. It doesn't always have to be, I buy myself the bag, I buy myself. Sometimes it's just rest. I think if anything, the pandemic has taught us or given us the space to do is to be able to slow down. Specifically for me, I spend a lot of my time talking to other individuals. I was going out into the community, going into homes and stuff. So I enjoyed being able to have space where I can get stuff done around my house. I can do what it is that I can make room for me, because honestly, even as a therapist, I was still not making time for me. Everything became about everybody else and what I needed to do. So to have this space to say, hey, Teal, to check in with myself and to be granted that space and to take advantage of that space to just check in with me was a great thing. So I think it really starts with people being in tune with their wellness, because you don't want to be at the point where it's like, okay, well, now I got to take time for this illness. I got to take FMLA. I'm stressed. I'm doing all these things. Nobody wants to do that. You want to just not survive life. You want to live.
Yeah. So for the person, who is like me, and I got to that place of where, like I said, I like we talked about, I did not take care of my wellness. So I was taking care of illness. And illness, not in terms of like hospitalization or anything, but illness in terms of just like, I just had a complete breakdown.
Yeah.
Like I had a complete breakdown, and I don't mind being transparent here, I guess, for all the world to see. My breakdown was serious. Like I could not, like I lost my memory.
Okay.
Like it was, I just could not remember anything.
Yeah.
I thought I was having early onset dementia, or Alzheimer's or anything, because, I was leaving the phone and the remote in the fridge. Like I just like it was just so many things. Like I felt like, I felt the way it looks like a computer feels when it's crashing. So those y'all remember like old computers when they used to get a virus and crash and like all crash and all the words and code and stuff would come up and it just would like literally just and crash. That's how my brain felt. Like I literally just could not hold any more information. And I crashed. Like I really just crashed. And so the pandemic, as you said, offered me that silent time to get through that crash. But that was like so scary, if I'm gonna be honest, because I had spent years just going, and not and for work, definitely putting way too much energy into work, but also just going, not taking breaks. So like that spilled over into my vacations. You know, I rarely have vacations where I wasn't doing some sort of work on vacation. It spilled into, you know, I bought a home. So now I'm trying to do things in my home late at night because I didn't leave work until late. So all of those things just keep your mind going. And so the pandemic has offered me the opportunity to really sit back and think. And I don't care what those memes say, you know, 2020, I didn't come out with the new business. Well, I already was going into 2020 with the business. But I came out of 2020 with rest, with the rested mind and a rested spirit. And so that is something that I would suggest to people, is to really find that quiet time where you do remove those distractions. And it's hard for people like me. I'm social. I have FOMO, and I do have FOMO, and I'm okay saying that. And sadly, I don't know if there would have been any other way for me to be able to take that self-assessment. And or not even take the self-assessment, because I already knew that. I had already assessed that, but there probably would have been any way for me to put into practice eliminating things. It wasn't forced by the pandemic. And so what I'm hoping to do in terms of accountability, and I hope that others who have had similar situations in the pandemic where it has forced you to slow down, is really holding yourself accountable for when the world opens back up, not to fall back into old habits, because I know for me, that's going to be the test.
Absolutely. I said the same thing to my therapist last week, I believe. I was talking to her and I said, I feel like I made just great progress in just getting to know myself, doing things for myself. One of my big words for 2020 and 2021 was discipline. So just being disciplined about certain things. And I told her, I said, I just have this fear that once the world opens back up and we're out doing the same things again, I'm going to fall back into the same thing. So it's getting myself prepared now, like, okay, how can we combat not falling back into that same track? You like where you are, you like how it feels, what practices are you going to put in place to be able to maintain this progress? I am no different from anybody else that I see, that I do therapy with. I have to be able to be held accountable for the things that I say to them. It's just like we're in therapy together. I'm giving it to you and I'm trying to do it for myself. So I definitely understand. It's like, okay, what I'm going to be able to do. Better boundaries. I know you said that you talked about that in some earliest. Those are important. Boundaries for work, boundaries with your family, knowing when to say no, knowing when to say yes. It's just like, have to be open still, whatever, if you want job development or advancement, whatever it is, knowing the right opportunities to say yes to. You don't know where it can lead to. Knowing when to say, I gotta say no, I gotta cut it off. Someone may call you, just had a busy day. Somebody may call you, you don't want to say, hey, I can't be available right now. And it's wrong with that, because you do have to create that space for yourself. Like you said, you're going home late, trying to work on your house. You don't even get to enjoy your house because you're so busy working in this beautiful house that you bought. You don't even get to enjoy it. So again, life is about living, not just surviving. Like, you're accumulating things, but are you enjoying the things that you accumulate? Whether that's wealth, whether that's time, whether that's joy, whatever the things, can you even enjoy it?
Girl, I have to tell you, when the pandemic hit and I was at home, I looked around and I realized, like, I had nothing on the walls. So even these are new, but like, I had nothing on the walls. I didn't have these little pillows. Like, I had boxes still that I haven't unpacked, and I was coming up when the pandemic started. I was coming up on a year and a half in my home, and I just didn't. I was just like, what, like I'm literally just coming in and out. Like this is an apartment, right? And so that is so true. In making space, you really have to do that. And so about making space, you talked about it, is really setting boundaries. And so I wanted to talk about how do Black women set boundaries in the workplace, given that we already know sort of like some of the unfortunate stereotypes, or or even just the baggage that we're bringing, right, to the workplace. How do we set boundaries?
I always ask this question to myself: what do I know about myself to be true? If I know I'm a person that overextends myself, this is something I know I need to work on. If I know I'm a person that, I don't know, maybe not the most sociable person, but it's something I want to do better at. This is something I need to work on. You just need to know yourself. Who are you? Again, a lot of what you do in the workplace is probably a lot of what you're doing in other facets of your life as well. You know what I mean? How are you showing up? If you're all over the place at work, you're probably all over the place in your relationships with friends and family. So it's just like, one, knowing who you are. Who are you at the end of the day? What do you stand for? And sometimes you just have to learn to stand on that, even if everybody else doesn't agree with it. If everybody's doing it, sometimes it doesn't mean that you need to do it. And it seems hard because you feel isolated. You feel like you're sticking out like a sore thumb and everything. But at the end of the day, you are easy to recognize when you're over there by yourself. Somebody see you instead of just being with the masses when everybody's doing the same thing. So sometimes it's hard to set boundaries because you don't always know the ramifications of what that's going to mean. But at the end of the day, I think that we always have a choice. And if you operate in the choice that's best for you, I feel like it's always going to work out for you. It might not always feel good, it might not always look good, but at the end of the day, I think peace of mind is a huge thing for me at this point. You know what I mean? It might not have been when I was in my 20s. It was about the money, this. Now it's just like, I just want to have peace when I come home. I want to feel like I did a good job. I did not give in to something that really didn't fully resonate with me, that I didn't agree with. I want to feel at the end of the day, I'm just respected for who I am. And it's not like, oh, she's just a puppet that's just doing whatever. It's hard to respect that, but more importantly, it's hard to respect myself in that manner. So at the end of the day, I just want to come home and feel like I'm okay with who Teal is. I'm okay with what the job Teal did. And if I did not do the greatest job, what am I going to do the next day to do something different?
Yeah.
So boundaries are important because they protect you and they protect others. You know what I mean? They protect everybody in that space. And I think a lot of time, going back to what I said about women just kind of being the savior and everything, we take on so much. We overextend ourselves because it's like, this is kind of what we're taught to do. You help, you do this, you do this. But I think a lot of times the attention was not given on, how do you feel? How is this weighing on you? You know what I mean? How has this, whatever burdens you picked up, whatever it is that you're carrying, how are you carrying it? And just because it seems like you're carrying it well, does not mean you should be carrying it. So understanding the role you play, your position, what can you reasonably take on? You know what I mean? What is no longer working for you in this season? I may be a part of a group one season, and another season of my life, it may be too much because I have other aspiration and dreams I'm working on. So I have to pull back from this group. That all gets to be okay, but that takes it, you just knowing yourself and knowing that at the end of the day, your boundaries are your boundaries. If they're non-negotiable, it doesn't really matter what somebody else thinks about it. They're for you, and they're going to have their own set of boundaries. So feel free to operate and do what it is that you need to do.
So in the workplace, we have job descriptions, and there's always that last bullet point that says, other
need is something. Yeah.
Right? We know that. Can you give a way for someone who is struggling, asserting their boundaries at work, that let's say they're asked to do something that falls in that category, because other dudes that they use it for everything, but is not necessarily out of the scope of their job, but it extends them beyond their capacity, right? Based on the other responsibilities that they're currently fulfilling. Can you give a way that person could express something to their supervisor to say no?
I think this is where communication is important. You have to be willing to have those challenging communication. Every talk or meeting that you have with your superiors or coworkers isn't going to be just like, hey girl, how you doing? Everything's, great. You are going to have, when it comes to your money, how much you're making. If you feel like you're due for a raise, or you feel like you're not being paid well enough, whatever it is, you're going to have to be able to speak up and kind of assert yourself to say, hey, I know I've been asked to do this. We got to go over these pros and cons. If I do this, this is what it may look like. That way, everybody has a heads up. Everybody wants to be well informed in what it is that's doing. Even asking for clarity about what it is this means. How does it affect the duties that I already have? And if this is a thing that I must do, well, let me tell you what this is going to look like. It's in terms of the things that I know I already have on my plate. That way, everybody's in the know. I always believe in putting stuff in writing. You don't want to get people that get convenient amnesia. It's like, oh, I didn't say that. Per our discussion, I will hit you with that fast. Just to say this is what was discussed, and being honest enough to say I can't do it. I'm going to need some help. A lot of times, specifically with Black women, we have a problem asking for help. I need help. I don't understand. What is it that you're asking me to do? So being able to have those conversations, to just be able to say, I don't know if this is something I can do. And if I am able to do it, this is what I'm going to need. At the end of the day, negotiate a lot to get our jobs, right? You negotiate whether it's your insurance, the money, what you negotiate, you're in a back and forth about what this is going to look like so you can reasonably get the job done. Feel free to exercise that as you continue in the position. You know what I mean? It's just like sometimes it may be like, okay, if you can get this done, I can give you the time, or whatever it looks. That's where rapport is good. Having good relationships with your co-workers, with your supervisors, and they'll have an understanding of who you are. But that takes you knowing who you are too. If you're always the yes person when they come to you with something, they're going to do it because that's what you set yourself up to be, the person that always says yes. So being able to say no, and being able to say this doesn't work for me, or this does work for me, but you have to be able to have those conversations, those challenging conversations, and you have to know how to agree to disagree.
Yeah.
It is what it is sometimes.
Yeah, I love what you said about being able to ask for help and say what it is that you need.
Yeah.
So when you have your supervisor and they are asking you to do something that extends, like just overextends you, I like to have the conversation of like, this is what's currently on my plate. Yes. And just laying it out that this is what's currently on my plate. These are the current projects that I am working on based on what you see here that's laid out. And I like to do that in writing. And because sometimes it's easier. People, it's right. I want to clear this up too. Doing things in writing is, yes, it is about covering yourself, right? And it's about being able to produce receipts if and when necessary. But it's also about effectively communicating. Some people are visual and they're able to really see it. Because if I'm telling you, hey, I have all this stuff that I'm doing this, and that, it's hard for a person to process how that means I'm overextending you.
Yes.
But if I lay it out, where you can actually look at it, touch it, and even see it, and you then, you can take the time to process like, okay, so yeah, this is a lot that she's working on. I think that is more helpful. And so laying that out for your supervisor so that they can see all the things you're working on. And then my question is right back at to them. So if you would like me to do this, where does that fit in here?
Yes.
What can be adjusted and what is currently in front of you? What can be taken off my plate? What support, like you said, asking for that support, what support is available for me to complete this task? Because I cannot do this task and maintain the level of performance with what I have now. And I think the last part is where I know I have struggled, because going back to the savior complex, going back to imposter syndrome, which we talked about in part 2, even thinking about feelings of worthiness, right? Admitting that I cannot do it all, you know, feels like failure to me, right? Or that means I said that it felt. Let me put that in past tense. It felt like failure to me. It felt like lesser value. It felt like I am no longer a high performer, right? Because I cannot do it all. And so reframing that to say that it's not that I cannot do it all, I just cannot do it all like this. And I need help and I need support. I cannot do it all right now, right? Like I cannot do it all by this deadline. Like it can all get done, but we need to talk about how it's going to get done in a way that does not sacrifice my health and wellness and my life. You know, that's the work-life balance.
Yeah.
So
I agree. And that's very important. You know what I mean? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So balance is very important. You know, it's just like, yes, we work to make a living, but are we living? Or is everything just based around just work? You know, we're coming home, we're exhausted, we are just sleeping, eat, sleep, get up next day, do the same thing over again. Balance is essential. You know, a lot of us have, you know, we're caregivers for our families. You know, if you have children, if you're married, if you have parents that you care for, whoever the case may be, how are you able to do that? Because a lot of times that can seem like work. So it's just like you have the work of family, you have the professional work, and then you're trying to still make time for yourself as well, or whatever it is that you want to do. It's important to be able to speak up in all those rooms when you need a break. When do I need to say, okay, kids, you need to go in this room? When do I need to say, okay, I need to take time off from work? When do I say, okay, mom, stop, I'm going to send this person to be with you today and I'll be back tomorrow? Whatever the case may be, it's just like I always say, when you get on that plane and they're going over those safety things, they tell you to put your mask on first before you can help somebody else. You know what I mean? But often we are trying to give oxygen to somebody else and we are suffocating.
Yeah.
Hoping that somebody does the same for us. So it's just like it all starts with you. Put your mask on first. Help yourself so that you can have it to give at work and in all these other areas of your life.
Yeah, and also understand that, you know, some of that is counter to what our current work system is set up to be. Because we do work in a capitalistic society where the idea, and I say idea because we know this to be false, especially as Black women, but the idea is that if I work the hardest, I can have the most, I earn the most, right? And so it's all about perspective and what you see as success, what you see as happiness, what do you see as your end game? Because if your end game is that you want to be living to enjoy life, whatever that looks like, then there are things that you need to do now to ensure that you have that happy ending, whatever that is for you. And our culture does not promote, nor does it encourage taking a step back ever, because taking a step back, once again, seems like failure. It seems like slowing down. And why would you want to slow down if you're ahead? Right? Why would you want to slow down and let someone else go past you?
Yeah.
And so it's a retraining of our minds. And then also, I think about as Black women, how, and as Black people, we've been taught, you have to work twice as hard. And so we bring that mentality also into the workplace, where it's like, we're already coming in like, I got to be the best. And not only I got to be the best, but I got to be better than whoever is the best, right? So it's like, I got to be the best. And that will drive you crazy.
It will.
So accountability is, when you talk about accountability to self, it's really starting with yourself. And what is it that you, like, going back to what you said in the very beginning, like, what is it that you want for yourself? And standing on that and being okay with all the decisions that you make that lead to being your best self.
I agree. I think that a lot of times when we are always trying to reach the next level, what's the next, that we don't even enjoy the accomplishments that we make along the way. We definitely don't enjoy the journey at all. It's always get to the next. We're looking at somebody else to see what they've been able to accomplish, how they run their race, how fast they were able to get there. And we're constantly comparing ourselves against these people, like, oh, well, I don't have this and I should have been able to do this. And now we feel depressed, stressed, because we haven't done what we were supposed to do, by a certain time. And it's just like, for example, I can be pretty introverted. So if I go into an office space and I'm like, hey, everybody, all the time, that's just not me. And it's only going to last but for so long. You know what I mean? So that's why it's important for me, just who I am. I remember when I first started, and a coworker at the time was just like, lighten up, because I was just quiet. I would speak, but they were just like, dang, lighten up. And they didn't know I heard them say that. But for me, it kind of stung, because it's just like, well, I'm just doing myself. But at the end of the day, if I would have said, okay, and started bouncing around the office being somebody that I'm not, I would have been pretty disappointed at myself, because I would have been offering you something so unauthentic to me. I know that I am an observer. It takes me a little while to warm up. What are my surroundings? And for me, I was going into a space where this is the most people I've worked with. These big amount of people, that I've worked with ever. I came from nonprofits, so I'm used to seeing about 2 or 3 people of the same people every day. Now I'm going into a space seeing all of these people. It was a little overwhelming. Crowds are overwhelming for me. So just knowing who I am, to say that's them, they'll come to know who I am. Are me and this person really cool? Sure we are. But it had to take me just standing in who I am to say, okay, they just don't know me yet. So even with the little things of just saying, what is my personality type? Am I the outgoing person? Am I the more introverted person? Am I the introverted person that gets extroverted once I get to know you? It's all a part of knowing who you are at the basis and being accountable to you. Other people are going to try to make you accountable for so many different things along the way. Your first responsibility is to yourself.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I want to apologize for my doorbell ringing. I'm not expecting one, so I'm not even sure. But this is unedited, and so this is the real deal. Things happen.
Absolutely.
I have no idea what's going on. So we talked a lot about when it's okay to pull back. I also talk about accountability and propelling yourself forward, right? Because in the last part, we talked to management and talk to managers about how managers and your organization can support Black women. But I do believe that there's also some accountability for you to support yourself, and finding your own resource and everything like that. So what are some things that a person can do to prepare themselves to propel forward?
Closed mouths don't get fed. Number one. It's just, if you don't say what it is that you're interested in, what you're looking at, nobody knows that you want to do this but you. You know what I mean? So it's just like, one, do you even know what you want to do? What does
Right.
this look like for you? So taking the time to sort that out and then going to somebody if you can, or just running this past, what does this look like? That's what mentors are for. You have mentors in different capacity. If you have a supervisor, if you have a coworker that you trust, whoever it is, to just say, hey, let me run this past you. What do you think about this? Do you know any, doing research? What do you know about the thing that you say you want to do? Does your job or the environment offer that? If it doesn't, what are you willing to do? At the end
Mm-hmm.
of the day, again, like I said earlier, we don't take a lot of risk in our community. It's just like, oh, we made it. We got this job. We're doing pretty well. We don't want to mess it up. So a lot of times we will not really go outside of any realms to get something that we may want. But everything requires a risk. It took a risk for you to apply for the job you're at now.
That's true.
You know what I mean? So it's just like sometimes you have to bet on yourself. You have to do that positive self-talk to say, okay, think about the skills you've accumulated since being at that job, the new things you were able to do and stuff. All that can be utilized to propel you to your next step. You just have to be willing to put yourself out there. And again, like I said, for the asking for help, asking for what it is that you need, asking for resources. A lot of people around you are well informed and gifted about many different things. So being able to have those conversations and develop those rapports with people, to just kind of bounce some ideas off of them and see what it gets you. But you have to be able to kind of put yourself out there, at least in the sense to just get some information.
Yeah. And even I was just, when you were talking, I was thinking about why that's so important, even prior to you getting the job, right? Because when you talk about self accountability, and we know that it's rooted in the things that you want from yourself, or as you worded it, what do you know is true about yourself, then there's some accountability too when you're selecting a job.
Oh, absolutely.
Or even prior to selecting a job, putting yourself in a position where you have the opportunity to select your job, right?
Yeah.
You do know, and I've been in those situations where you don't necessarily have that opportunity. You need money, you need a job, and you need it right now.
Yeah.
But when you are in a place where you are able to interview multiple times for a position, or for several positions, I should say, then you want to ask those questions when you are in interviews, and you have to hold yourself accountable and not be afraid to ask questions at the end around, if you know that you need a certain financial revenue coming in every month. You need to ask, what is the salary? What is the starting salary? If you know that you need flexibility in your hours, you need to ask, hey, is this a place where I can work flexible hours? Is telework an option? Is an alternative work schedule an option? How strict are you all on this? Because I have this responsibility, to myself or to my children, whatever. And you might even want to explain all that in the interview, but you need to know how flexible they are on time. What is an average day? Because there are definite I remember I was interviewing for a job last year, and it was a team interview. So it was the manager of the team as well as the three women who work on that team. And I remember after that interview, I said to myself, I hope they don't call me that. Because while I think I would have liked the job, I would have not liked working on that team, because I specifically asked questions around, how do you as a manager maintain work and encourage work-life balance with your team? Is there an expectation for me to work outside of the normal business hours? And all of those answers were like, we're fast paced and sometimes we need extra hours. And, I may say something at 6 p.m. and I'm not, right. And so I already knew that was not a position that, even had they called me, I would not take that. And not only did I know that, but I didn't pretend in the interview to agree with it. Right.
Sure.
I didn't even pretend. And I think I said in the interview, I understand that, but I respectfully disagree. And I explained why. Right. And it was so interesting to see that the team members, when I did that, number one, they were like, but they were, they were shocked, but they were also like, right? She's nodding their head. So you can already tell that while they're in that environment, that's not an environment that they really wish to be in either. And so that's another way that I learned to assert myself and hold myself accountable, to let them know right in the interview, not fake it, to pretend that, yeah, I'm okay with that. And then when I get in there, now I'm saying I'm not okay with that, right? Because that was what was expressed in the interview. But to tell you right now, this is who I am. This is who I'm showing up as. And you can decide if you would like me or if you want to leave me, right? similar to relationships and, romantic relationships, right? That you have to have that place where you can show up as yourself, that confidence where you can show up as yourself and say, this is who I am and everything that I am. And this is where we will agree. This is where we will have to agree to disagree, or this is where it just cannot work at all. What's your thoughts about that? Yeah.
Absolutely. I think too, like it's certain things at this point in my career you're not going to get me to be able to do. I'm just not. It's a no. If you're asking me to be on call 24 hours, it's a no. I've been there, done that. You know what I mean? It seems like I earned my stripes. I've done it. I care not to do it. So it's even when you are looking at position, what can you feasibly do? Based on exactly what you said. What can I do? I don't want to have to go out my way. Now, again, we are sometimes in positions where you do what you need to do until you do what you want to do. You might be in a position where you got to take something, get your money, do whatever you need to do, and then it's on to the next. But as you work yourself up and get yourself to a place where you want to be, you get to have you always have choices. Let's just start there. You always have the choice, but you get to be a little bit more choosy. So now it's just like, if you present me with the opportunity to say, hey, Teal, do you want to go this and this, I feel like I've worked my tail off enough to know this isn't going to work for me. No, I don't want to work hard at this point. I want to work smarter. This does not work for me, but thank you for the opportunity. Again, it's being able to say no, because you don't want to find yourself just overdoing it. And then you're looking for all these accolades and all these things just to have a person to tell you, well, I didn't ask you to. And it kind of telling the truth, you know what I mean? You're overextending yourself, and the truth hurts. It's just like, okay, and it's just like, if you're going to do it, it's just like kind of giving money or doing a favor for somebody. If you're going to do it, just do it because this is what you want to do. Please don't do it thinking that you're going to have to, where you're expecting to get a certain thing that you may never get. So that's why, if you know you're a person that you need certain things, don't set yourself up because you may never get it. So it is about knowing, what can you do? What is not for you anymore? It's just some things it's just not for me anymore. I can't do it.
Yeah.
And there's some things I'm finding in this phase of my life I'm having to say yes to. I know I'm a person, like I said, I'm pretty introverted. I enjoy more intimate settings, but in some capacity, if I've been asked, can you speak here? Even doing this is just like a yes thing, because I'm challenging myself to kind of step outside of what I'm used to doing, because there's some other things I want to explore. So I'm just like, not to say it's going to lead to any opportunities, but it does get me used to doing some things that I may not be comfortable with. So that's something that I know about myself is, okay, Teal, you have to challenge yourself to go a little beyond what you're used to. It may be uncomfortable, but just like exercising, it may hurt a little bit because you're not used to it. But then at some point it will become more comfortable to you. So it's some things you're going to have to say, or you should be saying yes to, and some things is just an absolute no.
Yeah. And I want to add really quickly before we shift gears is, there are going to be times, just as you said, like you put in your time, right? So I'm trying to, I want to word this correctly. So I want to pull it back so I say exactly what I mean.
Yeah.
And all of us deserve to be happy, and we deserve everything it is that we want. And deservingness is not about earning it, right? It's about the fact that you were just born alive and breathing, that you deserve things that you want to have, right? Okay. So when you think about knowing yourself, which I feel like is probably the overarching number one step that people need to take to hold themselves accountable, you have to know why you're doing something. And so earlier in your career, or even, I wouldn't even say early in career, there just are times in your career that call for you to maybe put in a little extra work. right? When you're in college, you might be called to do some work for free. It's called an internship. Unpaid internship these days, because when I was doing internships, and I'm not that old, but times have changed very quickly. Internships were not paid, but you did that because you understood that you were investing, right? So you were putting that time in to build the resume, to then be able to ask for what it is that you needed. Similarly, there are opportunities at jobs where you are asked to go above and beyond, whether it's a training, whether it's to take on a new skill, or whether it's to be, change positions, interim while, they're trying to figure it out. And those things might call you to work overtime. They may call you to shift whatever. But what you have to keep in mind, and what I will say that I admittedly lost in that process, is your goal and what you know about yourself. And so you know that you're taking on those extra tasks because you have an end goal in mind. But you also know that you have that, and having that end goal in mind, that if you do not start to reap the benefits of what your end goal is, that you may have reached the limit of what that opportunity affords, right? So don't stay while yes, it's an opportunity and you're getting work experience and you're growing and you're professionally development. Don't stay in something longer than you know and you have planned in your mind. Okay. That this is just a step. This is just something along the journey to propel me forward. Don't do that. So if you know that, okay, I'm going to do this for 6 months. I know that in 6 months, I should be able to ask this. I know in 6 months, my performance evaluation comes up and I'll be able to say here and ask for the raise, or I'll be able to apply for the new position or whatever. When 6 months comes, hold yourself accountable to that. And if that does not happen, then you have to know to step back or step away. And so that is something that I wanted to leave everyone with too, with everything that you're saying, because I do think that some of this does come with age, and as you said, like, we're both in our 30s now. It's like that comes with age, and
maturity.
And maturity, right? Yeah, and maturity and life experience. But for those people who are younger and they might just be starting out in their careers and figuring that out, I want to make sure that you understand that. For those people who might not be young but are trying to change their career, feel stuck, because there are a lot of us that feel stuck, and we have to begin to remember that stuck is a place that you put yourself in your mind, right? Like, nobody makes you stuck. Okay. So you have to make that choice to get yourself unstuck, to release yourself of those things. And so I want to empower you and hope and for people to do that. And so with empowerment, I did want to make sure we touched on at least briefly what, if any, because we talked a lot about self-accountability, but do we as Black women have a responsibility to also hold each other accountable and support each other in the workplace?
Yes and no. I say no because I feel like you're only responsible for you. But hopefully in you being responsible for you, you may feel the need, as I do, to say, I want to help this other person. You know what I mean? It's no different for me when I got my license and became a therapist. I remember receiving a call from a young girl. She's in Chicago somewhere. She's just like, hey, I have this class I'm completing. I just need to talk to you and run some things past you. I could have easily said no, find somebody else, which would have been her experience from all these other therapists she reached out to. But this was my way to get back, to say, sure, I'm going to take this 30 minutes to an hour to sit down to you and important to you, just like somebody took the time to do to me. So I would like to say that I would hope it will be at some point, as you become more accountable to yourself, that you don't mind being accountable to those around you. You know what I mean? That kind of sharpens you. Iron sharpens iron. So it's just like, You may not be able to give me something in the way I give it to you, but you have something to offer me.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to say, hey, Rashanna, what is it that you need?
Mm-hmm.
What can I help you with? Whether it's professional, personal, whatever it is, we all have a gift inside of that that's hopefully we'll use. So that's where I do say yes, just being accountable to somebody else. Hey girl, what do you say you want to do? Okay, what steps are you taking to do that? You don't have it figured out. That's okay. Sim, going back to what you were just talking about, a lot of times we don't have a lot of grace for ourselves. And so that's why it's hard to have grace for others. And so that's why it's sometimes harder to even want to be accountable to somebody else because we don't have the tolerance for them because we really don't have the tolerance for ourselves as well. So
Mm-hmm.
it's learning how to be patient with yourself, to show yourself that grace. You're not always going to have it together, not getting wrapped up in the shoulda, coulda, wouldas. I should have been here. I should have did this. You are where you are, and you will arrive to where you're supposed to arrive to when you're supposed to arrive there.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding the season of life that you're in professionally. You know what I mean? This in one season it may be I gotta work my tail off. In one season it may be rest. It might be a season of a job that this job is ending. This no longer suits me, and I need to admit this doesn't work for me anymore. But knowing where you are professionally, um holding yourself responsible for why you are, why you've been there as long as you've been there, you feel like you've been there too long. Just acknowledging it but not getting stuck there. Like you said, it's a mental space. You only stuck there because you stuck yourself there. But just being having awareness that this is what has happened and making a plan for how you're going to move forward so that you can go back and tell somebody else, these are the mistakes I made. This
Yeah.
is what this is what you might not want to do, but still allowing them the space and grace to make their mistakes, to do what it needs to do for them, because we all have our different journeys. And I don't want to be over in Rashanna's journey looking at hers. I want to use it for inspiration, but I don't want to feel like I have to do your journey. I
Yeah.
need to focus my and run my own race. You
Come
might
on.
be sprinting, I might just be doing a swift walk. Whatever that is my race. And we're all going to end up with, yeah, we're all going to end up where we're supposed to be. So just knowing what season you're in. And then once you have, again, that understanding of yourself, now I can come and say, hey, Rashanna, what you need, girl? I'm there. And if I don't have it to give it at that time, because I have some stuff, being able to say, I don't have it to give right now, but this is when I will have it.
Yes. Yes, 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 yes. So I think that is actually a really great place just for us to put a pin in it, right? Because we know that this is part 4 and this is ending this converse series, Black women in the workplace. But there's more that we could say. There's
Yeah.
places that we could go deeper and even unpack. But I do believe that what you just said has allowed this converse series to come full circle,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of even just my journey. Like I didn't even think about it until you just said that, right? How I've talked about how this converse series started out of something very personal for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was a journey that I had to go through, and taking a year to really secure my own mask.
Yeah.
And now that I've secured my own mask, because I've had this idea for a year now, I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to do this last year when I decided on March 26, 2020, that I had to make a change, right?
Yeah.
I knew that, but I needed to actually secure my own mask before I could even pour out. And this is my way of pouring out. And so I
Yeah.
hope that all of the women and even the men who are out here supporting women who have daughters or sisters, mothers, colleagues, whoever that could use this information, have found this converse series very helpful and supportive. And so this will hopefully not be the last time
Yeah.
that we're able to speak to Teal about different things. But we are happy, and I'm so very thankful and for this full circle moment, for this converse series, for myself personally, and even as I just think about myself professionally, and just how just even this, like you and I, when I think about how we started working together and just every um yes, I'm avoiding having a moment right now. But yeah, so Yes. So thank you so much for being a part of this. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for having me. I'm so proud of you. You know, I tell you that all the time that I'm proud of you just to see the progress you've made and you just betting on yourself. And again, I think I heard you mention that earlier, just understanding your worth, understanding what you bring to the table. So you know not to settle and accept nothing less, you know, than what it is that you deserve. So I'm grateful to be a part of it and thank you for having me.
Awesome. So where can people find you? For those people watching who may want to get in touch with you to ask you to speak, or to I don't know if people can email you about clinical services, but for those people that may want to ask you to speak or get in touch with you for questions that they may have.
Sure. So for clinical services, I work with Kryana Bradley, who's the owner of Authentic Connections Therapeutic Services. So people can go on the website, AuthenticConnectionsTS.com, and you can find me there. For speaking engagements, I probably just use my iCloud account. It's Teal, Teal, J Cole, Cole at iCloud.com.
Awesome. And if you missed that, don't worry. You can read below in the description. And you can also visit our website where we'll have the full bios of all of our beautiful Black women in the workplace who have contributed to this Converse series. I'm happy that we're ending. Once again, I am Rashanna Roach. I'm the CEO and founder of Vocal Action LLC. You can find us on all social media platforms at Vocal Action LLC. Our website is www.vocalactionllc.com. And feel free to DM us, feel free to contact us through the website, or you can always go on any one of our Instagram or we have one Instagram. So you can always go through our Instagram and Facebook accounts to also email us if you prefer to do that as well. Thank you so much for joining us for this 4-part conversation of Black women in the workplace. I hope that it has been helpful, and stay tuned for other things that are coming up here on our YouTube and Facebook page. Thank you so much, Teal. I'm really happy that you were here with me.
Absolutely.
Bye.